For a limited time only, get your hands on the Perca-Cola sticker pack. A link is down below. How are all of you lovely people doing today? My name is John, and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. This is a series where I take your questions about the zombie storyline and I answer them. Whether it's a big, a small, or a simple question, I'm always happy to take them on. As always, you can either leave your questions down in the comments below, or you can tweet me at JohnnyJ25. Without further ado, let's begin. We're going to kick off today's episode with a question from MLG Noob 12, who asks, where are the children now that everything went to crap? This is a good question to ask because the children were the focal point of Black Ops 3 Zombies. Everything we did was for the children. We had them sent to the house because they would be safe in the house. They wouldn't be corrupted. And yet, as we enter Revelations and we complete the Revelations Easter egg, they're only really a footnote on the greater scheme of things that happen in Revelation. So what gives? Why have they disappeared? You can enter Samantha's room and the children are nowhere to be found. If they're so important, why do they just disappear? Well, when the Shadow Man enters Monty's perfect world, he summons the Apothecons to assimilate this universe. And Monty doesn't want the children to be corrupted. I wouldn't be surprised if what Monty did was move the children. When we complete the Revelations Easter egg, you'll notice there are 5 objects that float around the summoning key and then enter the summoning key. These 5 objects have a glow on them similar to the same glow we see when we collect souls. This makes me think that these 5 objects possibly possess, are carrying, or are a representation of the soul. Now the children play with these toys. These are the toys of the children. So what I believe is that these toys and the glow that surrounds them represents the soul of the children, and what Monty is doing is having the souls enter the summoning key. And with Maxis and Sophia in the summoning key, or with Maxis in the summoning key along with the children, and Sophia in her robotic form, what they do is fly towards the Apothecan sun. And as we learned from this cipher the other day, when Maxis flew into the Apothecan sun with Sophia, he actually sacrificed his own life. And because Maxis sacrificed his own life, and his soul is in the summoning key, then I wouldn't be too surprised if when the children also flew into the Apothecan sun with Maxis, that their souls were also sacrificed and they died. Which doesn't make sense. I'll reiterate, the children were important, or at least we thought the children were important. We wanted to save their souls, and we wanted them to not be corrupted, so we created this paradise for them, yet we sacrificed their lives at the end? It doesn't really make sense. To answer your question though, where are the children when everything goes to crap? Monty probably decided he needed to protect the children, and to do so he hid the children, and he hid them in the form of their toys, these objects, and then at the end of the Revelations Easter egg, they are then absorbed into the summoning key, and then they fly into the Apothecan sun, where unfortunately they also die just like Dr. Maxis. So the children after the Revelations Easter egg are most likely dead, unfortunately. Moving on, we now have a question from Nikolai's Reaper on Twitter, who asks, Johnny, are the Keepers the same as the Vril? Yes, I do believe that the Keepers are the same exact beings as the Vril. This isn't something that's ever been explicitly stated. This has been something that we've had to assume. There's a mounting body of evidence that leads me to believe that the Keepers are the same exact beings as the Vril, and because of this evidence, I make the assumption that the Keepers are the same exact beings as the Vril. We were first introduced to the Vril in Black Ops 1. We saw devices such as the Vril device, which provided unlimited energy and let us know that the Vril have the potential to create very powerful and advanced technological devices. We also saw things such as the MPD Pyramid, which was another very powerful Vril device. We also learned that the Vril reside in Argatha, and this is all we really knew about the Vril. We didn't know too much, and we didn't get too much information about them in Black Ops 2. Black Ops 3 comes along, and we're introduced to a new set of beings known as the Keepers. Now, we were never really sure where the Keepers came from until Der Eisendrache, where we started to get some clues as to where the Keepers might have come from. One of the obvious connections between the Vril and the Keepers would be the Nova Crawlers as well as the Keepers' facial structures. They look very similar, and there have been theories in the past that suggested that the Nova Crawlers were actually captured Vrilya, and then they were experimented on. So we have these beings that look very similar, and this leads us to think that maybe they come from the same vein, or maybe they are the same exact creatures. But the evidence also continues, because in Der Eisendrache, we had the area where we could place the golden rod, a Vril device, and when we placed the golden rod, we actually summoned a keeper. So why would a Vril device summon a keeper unless the keepers are the Vril? Another bit of evidence would be the pyramid. We saw a pyramid in Der Eisendrache, and we saw a pyramid on the moon. Now, the pyramids are supposed to be Vril devices. However, we also have the keepers working with the pyramids. We even have a cipher on Garad Kuro V that, when solved, reads Chronorium Excerpt B. To allow quick travel between dimensions, the keepers created the transference device, which is powered by the Aether. The keepers have placed the structures throughout the realms. Now, if we assume that the structures are the pyramids, and they're what allow them to travel between the different realms, then this confirms that the Vril devices are also the keeper devices, and the keepers are the Vril. And this is probably a way for Jason Blundell to bring the Vril back into the storyline. He didn't want to just directly copy the Vril, he wanted to create his own being, so he created the Keepers, and the Keepers are basically the Vril. So when Maxis Richtofen talks about the Vril in Black Ops 1, we're also talking about the Keepers. We just weren't really formally introduced to them until Black Ops 3 when we met the Keepers. Today's episode will end with a question from Landon on Twitter, who asks, Johnny, why is Dr. Monty all of a sudden the main person in the zombie story? I believe that Dr. Monty was introduced into the story almost like a tool, a plot device to kind of connect all the different loose ends in the storyline. When the storyline was originally written by people like Jimmy Zielinski, it was just a mishmash of shit. They would take different conspiracy theories or different novels and try to string them together into one story, and we had all these weird things just kind of floating about in limbo that didn't really have an explanation. Now Jason Blundell comes along, and he's now writing the zombie storyline. He wants to create a better narrative, and in order to create a better narrative, what he needs to do is string all of these little loose ends and weird things floating about together in order to create a more coherent story. And this is where Dr. Monty comes along. We have all these phenomenons that happen in the zombie storyline that almost act like they're from a higher power, a greater being, and there was never really a greater being introduced to us. So in order to allow for all of these different things to come together, Jason Blundell created the character of Dr. Monty. We can see this when Dr. Monty goes on to discuss things such as the drops.
Where do you think all these magic weapon boxes come from? The chalk drawings on the wall, the magic ammo drops? The gumball machines? Do I need to go on, or do you get the message? I just hope you appreciate it.
He claims to be the one responsible for all of these different phenomenons in the zombie storyline. He's the reason the perk machines follow us everywhere we go. He's the reason the Pack-a-Punch is in every single map. He's the reason the drops appear. He is the guiding force that has been following us along. He is the announcer. He is this person, and that kind of gives us a better perspective of what's going on in the storyline, because originally it was a game. There was no story behind it. We were just fighting endless hordes of zombies, and as a narrative developed, we had all these weird different things going on, and then Jason Blundell introduces the character of Dr. Monty, and what we can finally do is have a better understanding and an explanation for all these weird phenomenons that we originally just considered game mechanics. That's probably what is going on with Dr. Monty, and then once Dr. Monty is introduced into the story and we have this godlike figure, well, then he can play a more influential role in the storyline, and that's probably why he is so important. We have this character with all this power, all these abilities. Well, of course he's going to want a hand in everything, and if he's the one that's been like a guiding force, well then of course, as our character is near the end of our journey, he is going to come and help us along and help complete our final mission. That's what's going on with Dr. Monty. That's why he's kind of been shoehorned into the end of Black Ops 3 Zombies, because well, Jason Blundell really wrote this final act in the entire Revelations arc. That's going to wrap things up for this episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. If you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a like, possibly subscribe. I do episodes of this series almost every week, or at least I try my best to, and you can help out by leaving comments down below or tweeting me at JohnnyJ25. I'm going to go though, have a wonderful day, and bye.